Hey, 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 hey! We're back again. Good afternoon, gamers. We got a new Moonkin Monthly for you guys. We are joined by David Q and Goosey Druid. As always, we got myself and Nick Druid as your hosts. Nick, what's up with you, dude?
Not much. Cleared the raid like when was it? A week ago, I think. 2 weeks? No, a
How
week.
many hours?
Too many, to be honest. Probably like 70 plus.
Okay.
I don't know. It didn't took too long compared to like other raids, but we definitely did some overtime. Not as much as other guilds, but I'm good with it. Got World 11. It's fine.
Not a bad tier. David Q, where can we find you, dude?
Hello, I raid in vodkas on the server Zul'jin in the United States, and you can find my stream at twitch.tv/DavidQ42. Stop laughing.
On Zul'jin, inside of the United States of America.
Yeah.
But what about Canada?
I like to be formal.
Okay, I see. And then Goosey,
U.S. servers.
Goosey,
I also raid in vodkas.
But why are
I'm
you
an expert in
relevant?
the I'm an expert in the Druid Discord, and I also wrote the Dreamgrove.gg guide, better than the Wowhead guide.
True. Actually true.
Wrong. No. All right.
Just to clarify something, before we start, we have the first string of Vodka Z and the second string. First string being David Q, second string being Goosey.
Alright, I'm done.
Can you give us an okay hand? All right. We also got a Discord, so check that out in the description. And then a big shout out to our Patreons, Never Nude, Zyfta, Arui, Mr. Sliggy, Tiggs, Pixel, Gaysu, Hamflaps, and Krona. So big ups to all of those guys. I really appreciate it. All right. So first topic, we got to talk about the Race for World first. So we saw Method clear the instance in about, it was like a little bit under one reset. So overall, what do we think about the difficulty curve of the instance, generally speaking? So obviously we saw the first 8 bosses go down in like less than 24 hours. And then we saw Jaina being a little bit more of like a roadblock, taking about 350 pulls. So what do you guys think about like this difficulty curve for the race in general, for Method, and then for like the rest of us?
Well, it's basically like Antorus without Agrimar. Just every boss is a complete joke, and then the last boss is just way too hard, like comparatively.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jaina, imagine Jaina, like if you didn't burn her in phase 3, that fight would be way harder too. Like, it's actually insane, the difficulty curve.
So David, do you actually think it's too difficult then? Or do you prefer this kind of difficulty curve? Because we've seen it a decent amount we saw it in Antorus, we saw it in Uldir, and now we're seeing it again in BOD. Do you think that this difficulty curve is appropriate? Because it's clearly what they're going for. They would prefer to undertune instances as opposed to maybe lending themselves to nerfing it or overtuning it in some way. So do you believe that this difficulty curve is okay, or would you like to see it a little bit more challenging?
I think I'd prefer if the difficulty curve was more linear. I don't like it when there's only one boss that's significant. Thinking back, like in the past, it's been like that for the past 2 raids, with maybe like Antorus having Agrimar and Uldir having pre-nerf fitted Devourer being like a difficult boss. But I would just like to have more difficult fights that are more varied than, like, say, only the last boss, where you really have to put in like 200 and 250 plus pulls, and the other bosses are all like sub 20. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, I know I personally have issues with Mekkatorque, Storm of Blockade, and Rastakhan being entirely too easy. Obviously, I think Mekkatorque is challenging because it's challenging on Heroic. I don't think it actually brings anything new to Mythic at all that makes it difficult. So I would maybe like to see something a little bit more challenging on that fight, not just like they just kind of tuned up the numbers, and basically if you don't explode a Gigavolt bomb on your raid, the fight kind of just dies, right? So that's a stupid fight. Stormwall Blockade is like, how many ranged DPS can I field, and the boss insta-dies, like, for no reason. And we obviously saw it cheesed pretty heavily with how people are doing the boats. And then Rostak... Go ahead.
I think looking back at Uldir, that had a pretty good difficulty curve. Like, besides Fetid, like when it was over 2.
I don't think so. Like, talking about Battle of Dazar'alor, whatever it's called, it wasn't too easy. It was just the fact that everyone was either bugged or getting cheesed like every boss. Like, Mecha had some like hard overlaps in Mythic, but that's about it. Like, everything is the same. Blockade just got cheesed. Jaina got cheesed, basically by
Rastakan got
burning her.
cheesed too.
Rastakan got cheesed, yeah. And you all like got into the raid with like 300-400 item level Ezreal pieces, right? And like good gear from Mythic Plus already, so it was like super easy. Anyway, you didn't need the Mythic gear
Some
for
people
the
went in
like
with, like-
first bosses.
Yeah.
Some people went in with like 2 415 Azurite pieces
Like-
even.
Comparing that to like Antaurus or even Tomb of Zagreus, you didn't get as much gear back then compared to now.
You got the same. I would say you got the same amount, if not more, gear. But the quality of the pieces was significantly lower because, like,
You had less chances to get more gear or good gear.
yeah, I don't know. They've
And
they've
also
definitely
legendaries, of course.
they've definitely lended themselves to undertuning as opposed to overtuning due to Tomb of Zagreus. So I don't love the difficulty curve. I don't actually think
Yeah.
Rastakhan got cheesed. I think it's actually just like a smart use of the geometry of the room and how you're dropping the Death's Doors. I think that's like I don't think that's like cheese. I think that's like a good use of the Death's Doors.
I think that's how it was supposed to be done.
Rastakan was just too easy.
Rastakhan is too
Like,
easy.
Unattuned. Yeah.
For something that should have been the Horde side end boss or whatever, that boss was entirely too easy.
It didn't have a relevant mythic mechanic, so that's basically why.
I just wish like Blockade was more of a wall.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like if that entire cheese wouldn't be there and maybe it had like not been nerfed that much on day one, like maybe slightly but not that much. Maybe it would have been like a good wall like Agrima was. I think like Antaurus had like a pretty good curve. Or
Okay.
Nightroid.
It definitely feels like most of the bosses that died that are supposed to be hard, like people thought Stormwall was going to be really hard, it's always something to do with cheese. Like not kicking the ads on the boats on Stormwall just made that fight trivial, where some people would have to put in 2 or 3 times the amount of pulls to just get past phase 1.
Mhm.
And then in like 10 pulls, if you do the cheese strat, you just don't have anyone die on the boats. And even if you have one or two people die on a boat, phase 2 is still doable, right? The push is really easy.
I mean, dude, not doing the dance on the platform for Stormwall is actually that was ridiculous too. The fact that was even a thing was just mind-boggling. And then you had the add teleport spot, and then you had pet soaking Ire of the Deep. Like there was so many ways to cheese that fight.
The AK strat right there.
Dude, just stop smiling, David. All right, so how is Jaina going for Goosey and David? Not Nick, because he's too good for Jaina progression. So obviously,
can you do?
For those who don't know, Goosey, David, and myself are still progressing on Jaina. I think we're all 250 to 300 pulls deep, getting close to killing the boss. So what do you guys think about Jaina? And Nick, you can jump in too if you have something that you'd like to say. What do you guys think about Jaina progression-wise? Do you think that she is too challenging? So I personally think that the dot is the only relevant mechanic to that fight, and that's why we're seeing the strategies implemented that you're seeing, is because the 2.4k per stack dot is incredibly overtuned. So you need to play the fight perfectly around the dot, as opposed to playing the fight the way that it should be played normally. Do you think that that's okay, David, or do you think that you would have liked to see Jaina be a little bit different in terms of how you're playing out P3?
I think having a whole fight revolve around one mechanic is fine. The only thing I don't like about Jaina is how unimpactful phase 1 is for the entire fight. So regardless what you do in phase 1, as long as you don't have anyone die, you could do negative damage. You could have like a couple people AFK, and it would still not matter for phase 2 and phase 3, as long as anyone who goes into transition does not have extra stacks, which is relatively easy to do. And it just makes progression really boring, because regardless what happens in phase 1, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is just do the fight, and it has no impact on the rest of the encounter.
So then would you like an impactful phase 1 like we saw in Gahoon, where you have to dunk the orb at like specific timing, or would you prefer something like different phase 1 wise?
Maybe, I mean, Gahoon was fine. Like phase 1, it was you had to do the fight correctly. You couldn't have anyone die, and what you did impacted the rest of the fight, so you still had to like somewhat do it right. Whereas on progression, Jaina, whenever you wipe in like phase 2, phase 3, it just makes doing phase 1 just so tedious, because it's easy and it doesn't have an impact. So
Yeah, I'm personally not a fan of phase 1. Goosey, what are your thoughts on Jaina progression as a whole? How have you been liking it? What are your thoughts been on it?
I agree with phase 1 just not being good. Like it takes up a good 40% of the fight, and it's basically not impactful at all. Phase 2 is okay, but really it all just comes down to phase 3, which, I mean, phase 3 is okay, but it's kind of dumb that you just burn the boss, right? Like, it's definitely not meant to be like that, but I don't really see how you would do the boss otherwise without just burning it. Like, imagine doing phase 3 without burning the boss. There's no way.
If the dot hits for like 50% of the amount it currently does, I think not burning the boss is like a very legitimate strategy, and you just 5 heal.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the issue is that like you can't survive like 17, 18, 19 stacks normally.
Imagine phase 1 just being like way shorter, like for some reason not. How long is it? Like 3-4 minutes now?
3 minutes or so.
3 minutes.
Like maybe just 1 minute or so, and then you actually like play the elemental.
Yeah.
Instead
Another
of
thing,
burning her.
I don't know
That
if Nick
would have
had
been,
that
like, better.
issue, but the timings in phase 1, like what abilities Jaina decides to cast,
Oh
is
my
very
Oh
inconsistent.
my god.
So sometimes she'll cast Avalanche, sometimes she'll cast Ring of Ice, and sometimes she just won't cast anything at all for a solid 15 seconds.
Sometimes the boats don't come out
Dude,
for a minute straight.
She delays the
Yeah.
boat for like 30 seconds. Like, what is that?
And
I'm like, my income is still going, is over, and the boat didn't even spawn yet.
Yeah, and sometimes it can give you some very bad overlaps, right? Where she, let's say she does an avalanche for a while, so if you have a ballista that's on fire and a boat that needs to be taken, if she doesn't spawn any avalanche, you automatically get a second set of bombardment on your boat, which makes it quite difficult to deal with. And it's purely based on RNG, and at least I think so. I don't think it doesn't have to do with percentage, because everything she does is time based.
No, it's
So
purely
it's
RNG. It's about spell
pure
queuing.
RNG. It's pure RNG what ability she's gonna cast, and you can just get fucked and have a pull become 3 times as difficult just based on when she wants to cast her abilities.
I don't find phase 1 very challenging, but I do understand how it's like pretty easy to get sniped out by an inconsistent mechanics, especially if you're doing the mind controls of the ads and knocking them off the boat, and then like, oh, you accidentally get killed by bombardment in a time that it should not be coming out, or something with avalanche or whatever else, because that seems like that's a common thing for priests with how David is laughing currently.
No, it's
you okay?
You could have some really bad overlaps where you get bombarded into a freezing blast.
That's not a bad overlap, that's just a bad play. So what he's referring to is I got bombarded and like charged back onto the boat, and then I got like insta-frontaled and died. It was very bad clip.
Phase 3 also has RNG. And phase 2 to a lesser extent, like if you get the icefall spawned on you, you're just kind of dead.
So phase 2's RNG is really not that bad, because the only bad RNG is the gathering storm with the it's the second or third gathering storm that you end up getting in the phase whenever you're trying to blow up the second barrel. But you can always just blow up that second barrel and stand in it like towards the end of the gathering storm when the icefall is coming out, and so that you just know you're always safe. So that's not too bad.
That one's not that bad, yeah.
In our like, I don't know, 30 sub 20%, like or in our 30 like 15 sub 10% pulls, I've only seen like insurmountable RNG like twice, where it's like, oh, that's like an insta wipe. Okay, that's cool. That like the worst icefall of all time, just unmovable bad. But like, I don't think the RNG in the last phase is god awful. I think it's bad for our damage too. Getting Heart of Frost or Bombard like during the middle of your incarn, or getting both during the middle of your incarn just like kills your damage so much.
You know my point on the RNG. I'm not a fan. I think it's like the same as Argus basically, because we had like nights where we just got wiped every time because we got Icefall in P3.
And then you're back to phase 1.
So many kills, and it's so annoying. Then you're back to phase 1, and everyone is tilted. Everyone dies in phase 1. You just like it just stacks on. It just makes everything worse.
Yeah.
Dying to RNG is literally the worst thing that can happen.
Especially 8 minutes into a fight.
I love
Especially after stuff like Argus happened.
I mean, Argus was different. I thought Argus RNG was a little bit more insta-wipe the raid than this, because the Ice Falls and the Glacial Rays and stuff like that is, like, you can play around stuff like that. Whereas this RNG, like Argus RNG, if the wrong person got chained, like if I got chained, for instance, like I would die through Bear Bark and Frenzy. There's like no recovering from it, and then I get a chains debuff on the whole entire raid. So on some end, I do understand, but on the other end, I feel like it could be way worse. I felt like Argus was like worse RNG wise.
Argus was definitely more RNG,
but it's still.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good RNG. All right. Do you think Gahoon RNG with the Boil spawns in P3 was better or worse than what we see on Jaina? Nick?
Better.
Way better.
Better, yeah.
Way better, yeah.
There was no pull that was unsalvageable or undoable, even if you had like 2 boils or 3 boils all next to each other.
Yeah.
You always had ways to deal with it with better play and just having players that are conscious of what's going on. Whereas Icefall, there's literally nothing you can do. Like in P3, if you move the boss that much, you're just... Or even if you can move the boss that much, which Jaina isn't keen to doing, you lose a lot of DPS and the pool's just dead.
All right.
You end up just rotting down because the healers can't heal either.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. All right, so let's kind of go through this boss by boss. We're going to group it into 3s because I think that's like the easiest way to kind of describe these bosses. We got Champion of the Light, Grong, and Jadefire Masters. So the story of these bosses generally is the fact that they're all ridiculously easy. I would say Grong is by far the hardest of the 3. Jadefire Masters and Champion of the Light, for a lot of people... Champion of the Light's like a one-shot boss. Jadefire Masters for good guilds is like a sub-5 pull boss, but overall it's very, very easy. So Nick, what do you think about the first 3 bosses of the instance in Champion of the Light, Grong, and Jadefire Masters?
The fact that we didn't even see phase 3 on Jadefire this week shows how easy those bosses are if you have like decent gear. I don't know, Champion is a one-shot, does nothing. You just focus the boss, kill the ads one time, and you're done. Grong needs just a good amount of healers, that's all, to kill it, basically. And Jadefire, yeah, I don't know. You just focus the... Wait, it's the monk, not the mage.
It's the monk, not the mage, it's Mestra.
Yeah, it's the monk. You focus the monk, and you cheese the mace with the Warlock portal, and then you're done.
Yeah, I accidentally called Mestra the mage on our most recent video. That was not intended. It's the monk. I always call her Mestra, so I got kind of confused with what it was. So I kept calling her the mage, but yeah, no, she's not the mage. I actually think Jadefire is super cool, and it's very sad that the fight is ridiculously easy. David, what were you gonna say?
I mean, I personally feel like the fights were easy, right? But there's nothing wrong with that because they're the first 3 bosses of an instance. The difficulty goes up a notch with opulence, as it should. And they had cool mechanics, right? Like the Jadefire mechanic where you have to go up in the air to dodge the strikes, and you get rewarded for it if you land all of them. I think that's pretty cool. Gronk didn't have anything particularly special. It was just like a tank and spank and see if your tanks are able to do mechanics and just like your healers can. But that's fine, right? For a couple first bosses of an instance. Champions of the Light maybe a bit boring because you could ignore literally every mechanic and just kill the ads all the time, and the AoE mechanic that's supposed to prevent you from doing that won't one-shot you if you just cooldown for it.
There are 3 out of 9 heroic guilds that have killed Mythic Champion of the Light.
Yeah, the only boss harder than Mythic Champion of the Light is easier than Mythic Champion of the Light is Heroic Champion of the Light.
It sort of reminds me of Scorpion, but even Mythic Scorpion was harder. Because if someone got knocked into the wall, you could wipe from the extra scorpions, right? But Champions of the Light, there's nothing that you can do to possibly wipe.
Mythic Scorpion was a good fight.
Completely...
I like that fight, dude. That was a good fight.
Yeah.
That was a good way to
Jadefire and Grong are good. Champion,
it's
like you're fighting a giant Tettles boss. Like just a little
it's
like
a it's like a single target fight because you just like don't even care about the ads because they just get tanked off to the side, so nothing even matters.
No, you can pad on them.
Yeah, you have to dive up.
I don't even pad on them. I don't even touch them.
The champion parse.
All right, so this is a good segue into Opulence, Conclave, and Rostcon. So like the second tier of difficulty in this instance, a lot of people saw 10 to 20-ish pulls on these encounters. If you're like one of the top 50 guilds in the world, you probably saw about 10 to 20 pulls on these fights. none of them being overly challenging. I think Opulence is probably the hardest boss out of these three.
Yeah.
Because I feel
I
like
agree with that.
Conclave is like, did I push the bosses at the correct time to where I don't get the boss pushing at during the Winds of Paku? And then Rastakhan is like, did I drop my Death's Doors in the right spot? So Opulence actually required a little bit more skill, even though it was largely, did I make it into Opulence's room with 20 people live and everybody having their gems? I actually thought the gem mechanic was super good. Goosey, did you have anything to say on this?
Opulence was a very good fight, yeah. Definitely. I like them, just the mechanics in general, like they're very well designed. And it's like, it's pretty like, it's good curved in difficulty right there for the fourth boss of the raid. Conclave, it's probably pretty hard if you don't kill the boss at the right time. But if you phase the boss at the right time, it's a complete joke. Like the mechanics never line up in a way where you actually die. And yeah, Rastakhan just didn't have a mythic mechanic that mattered. Like the only mechanic on mythic I think is the ads in phase 2 or phase 3 come down if you kill them. Like they come down to the Bomb Samdi realm. And if you just don't kill them until after phase 3, you just win.
Yeah, you just CC them and then you just wait, and then it's like, what? Your bottom side pops Bloodlust. Your top side sits there with the ad CC'd. As soon as your bottom side comes back up after the Bwansamdi pushes to 50%, you kill the ads and then you just like win just for no reason.
Phase 3,
like,
you just sit down there and just target dummy the boss again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of target dummy bosses in this raid, I feel like.
Yeah, I definitely thought. What did you guys think about the gem mechanic on Opulence? Nick, what did you think about the gems overall?
We actually tried to kill it with only 2 rubies at the start, but like quickly swifted over to 4 rubies, 2 on each side, because it just made the fight so much easier.
Yeah,
but
getting people
besides that,
translocated.
Yeah, we didn't actually use the crit that much because it wasn't needed actually. Like you could have killed the boss without the, what is it called, topaz? I don't know.
Yeah, topaz.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it wasn't needed. It's just helpful to kill the ads, I guess. Right?
So I find that interesting because my guild actually has like rank 1 speed like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and we actually cycle through topaz so everybody has 100% crit uptime.
That's what we tried, but we just didn't manage to do it.
Okay, whatever. I mean, yeah, it's obnoxious because the Heart of Gold, that's the name of it, right? The Heart of Gold
Liquid
debuff.
Gold.
Liquid Gold. The Liquid Gold where you have to drop it outside of the raid group is pretty obnoxious on that fight. It takes for a ton, plus whenever the boss is doing that ability, the Liquid Gold takes up like a ridiculous amount of room. So overall, I thought Opulence was pretty cool. Conclave and Rastakhan were... Conclave wasn't underwhelming. Rastakhan was pretty underwhelming, honestly. Especially for something that felt like it needed to be like... It was like the Horde end boss. Like, what?
I thought it was going to be like the mid-tier wall boss, kind of.
Opulence, the one thing that seemed odd to me is that they didn't close off the paths when you got to the second phase. And so you could drop the Liquid Gold on the path that you came from, and it would literally make it a negligible mechanic because it would never reach your raid unless you spent like 10 minutes in the last. And yeah, so all it required was a raider that had a pair of eyes that could see when they got their debuff, and they could just like take a Warlock Gate to go outside and drop it. And then the whole surging raid mechanic again is just cheesed from not having to like kill the ads extremely quickly or stack them up real tight with each other. Yeah. So yeah, again, another mechanic that could have been a nice softened rage sort of that becomes completely meaningless.
Yeah, I love Soren's like explanation of Rastakhan was like, I was looking through the dungeon journal looking for the mythic changes and I just couldn't find them anywhere, and I'm just like, that is the best summation of Rastakhan I think I've ever heard. So like basically the mythic mechanic, like Nick said earlier, was the fact that the ads will go downstairs if you kill them, and then the other one is the fact that the tank debuff has a 60-yard range as opposed to like a 40-yard range, so your healer has to step in. One healer occasionally has to step in and heal the tank. True.
You can't heal it through not even stepping into the what is it called, the aura or whatever.
Yeah,
if the tank stays correctly like on the correct side and your healer stands like right on the edge of the debuff or on the zone, you don't need to step in. You can just heal him, but it's very tight.
Okay.
But it drew it with Moonkin aura, Moonkin affinity. Can do it.
Oh, we've been using,
or whatever it's called.
Yeah, we're using Mistweaver Monk. So
yeah, we did too, but we just did for this week's kill and it worked fine.
Oh yeah, no, Resto Druid's pretty good for that.
It's just again a cheese that you can do to make the fight way easier.
Yeah, the name of the instance, how to cheese that boss.
Oh, another thing, I really liked actually the mechanic on Conclave that you had to like dispel the healing immunity debuff.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And I liked it especially because I had as a balancer, you can dispel curses. So being able to help out the guild or being able to dispel yourself without having to rely on healers when you knew you were in danger was quite nice. And just the overall mechanic was nice. It's just it wasn't threatening enough
Yeah,
because half the time in the fight there's 0 damage going on, so it's not like you constantly have to swap it out except maybe like the last 20 to 30 seconds of the fight at the end where everyone has like debuffs and there's a lot of damage going on. But
well,
for the rest of the fight it's almost a non-issue.
I think the issue is that there's like travel time on it, right? Because once you dispel it off, there's travel time between when you dispel it and when it gets on a new player. If there's like no travel time, if it like insta procs on somebody else, I think that mechanic is like significantly more challenging. I think that fight would suck if it was like that though.
I don't think it would have been that big of an issue because
would-
most of the time when you're dispelling, the rest of the people will be at a very high amount of HP because there's no other damage going out, and when there is damage going out, there's usually a healing cooldown up. So when it transfers, unless it transfers to a tank when it's a bad time, it's really not a big deal.
Goose, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely suck if you couldn't just kill the boss at the proper time and just basically have no bad overlaps at all. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's how you kill that fight. You just get no bad overlaps, and the fight just kind of dies.
yeah.
We end up like holding Bloodlust for literally like it's like 2.5 minutes or something, just so we can Bloodlust on. I don't know the name of the bosses.
It's
One
not good
Aku?
in current timing, that's for sure.
Akunda, I think, is when we're Bloodlusting. The lightning one.
That's
Akunda's
probably.
last, I think.
You want to
Depends on the order.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, it depends. Well, the usual order that people do, you Bloodlust third, which is Paku.
Oh, we're killing Akunda third. We're killing Paku last.
I think it's not the big deal which one you kill
Whatever.
last,
The fight is not relevant enough, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's whatever.
Anyways, yeah, so then we got, so segueing on, we got Mekkatorque and Stormwall Blockade. So we can start off with Mekkatorque. I actually think the robot mechanic on Mekkatorque is actually pretty cool. I think the issue with Mekkatorque is that it has no change between heroic to mythic difficulty, which is fine for that fight, but I think it's weird because they just kind of amped up the numbers, and then it's like, the only challenging part is not
There is a
Gigavolt
change.
bombing my rate. Okay, yeah, the Gigavolt radiation zone is a change. And then like how often you get people shrunk is also a change, and then you also have the ginormous change. So there are some changes, but none of them are relevant to like the cadence of the fight, right?
So I feel like the radiation is somewhat it's somewhat relevant to guilds that don't have as good of a coordination or players that aren't like as versatile like during a fight, because it can definitely be an issue, right? If people don't think on the spot that there's nowhere to go on this on one side to line of sight, or if both people go on the same pillar, the gigavolt radiation definitely makes it so you have an extra step to think of. But yeah, overall.
So what if the
Not
Gigavolt
very
radiation zone doesn't despawn? Like, I think that's like the easiest part of the fight is that the Gigavolt radiation zone doesn't stay for the whole entire fight. I think if
that
the
would make the
Gigavolt
fight very hard.
So like I think that we're required to like move the boss in a way that would be more challenging.
Yeah, to create more line of sight places.
Yeah. So you would probably start on that other like side pavilion, right? And then you'd use like a lot of the edges in the room in order to be able to make sure that you have line of sight appropriately. I don't know. I think it would definitely would have been a more interesting change if it didn't despawn, but then it despawned, and the only difficult part of the fight is spark bots in phase 3 doing a large amount of damage, and then there's like one or two nasty overlaps in phase 3 that can blow you up if you're not careful with the Gigavolt bomb. Goosey, what did you think about Mekkatorque as a whole?
I think Mekkatorque was pretty good. Like, obviously it kind of lacked a mythic mechanic, but in terms of like how hard it was in terms of tuning, it was pretty balanced. It was like, what, a 30 pull boss? Something like that?
Depends on your guild. Method
Yeah.
took like 60, but I think Vodka
So my guild-
UC 18, I believe.
14, I think.
Oh, was it 14?
Oh,
Yeah,
I think
14.
20, which is quite good.
that's very
Yeah.
good. Yeah. And then we got Stormwall Blockade, which we kind of touched on a little bit. The most heavily cheesed boss in the instance. So basically, the first week there was this wave. The first and second week, you just did not kick Brother Joseph or Sister Catherine. So you just like let them channel their full entire cast into Laminaria. And then after that, you didn't even have the Bloodlust. You could just kick at 10%. Let them translocate. They don't cast anything yet, and then you kill them. So you still have Bloodlust for the last phase, and then you're able to just like the boss has 84 energy or whatever. So like nothing matters. It doesn't end up mattering if you need to kick the ad or not. You just basically make sure that the energized sparks don't make it to the boss. So that's the only important point of the fight. And then you just kind of kill the energized sparks and the fight just dies, making sure that you're able to just hit them and keep them slowed with Frost Mage, with Cone of Cold, and DK, Death and Decay slow, and all that other stuff, making sure that they're permanently slowed. The fight just kind of falls over in some way. And you guys talked about how heavily it was cheesed. Do you think that the fight was too easy, or do you think that it was just too cheesable, David? Where would you like to start with that? What do you think?
I definitely think it was too cheesable. I think if you had to do everything, it would be much harder. For one, you could never, during the first and second week, I think, you would be able to just stand on the side of the platform and avoid that completely the mechanical voltaic flash, which you either had to dance now or get hit by it. It doesn't do like an insane amount of damage. It does like 80 to 90k, I think. So it's survivable, but still a mechanic that's completely voided because of cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And then first week and second week, I think you were still able to stand on the brazier to just teleport the ad backwards so that it would go automatically to the back. And I think that was an issue as well because the ad sometimes would just randomly port before. So it was very inconsistent at first. Like you would spawn it closer to the boss and it would randomly port to the back, or spawn it in the back and it would port forward. So that was really annoying. Yeah, otherwise, I think the IR mechanic was undertuned as well. If you couldn't have one tank just soak all of them, it would have been much more difficult as a raid, while having to deal with sirens and sea swell and all that sort of stuff. What are you guys laughing?
Nothing. All good.
Kettle's having technical difficulties right now.
Somebody was using a blender upstairs. I don't think it picked it up on OBS, but somebody was definitely using a blender upstairs.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like if you actually had to do the mechanics on Stormwall, it would have been much more difficult, but you were able to ignore almost all of them. So
yeah, by the time they fixed it, we just came in with like 2 more resets of gear, and it was a joke. But yeah, definitely.
Unless, of course, you're me with trying to run the 2 energized sparks with dance at the same time and then just dying with the ad in melee, or getting Ire of the Deep off the edge. That was...
Yeah, the thing is you have to use your eyes and not walk into those things.
You have to use your eye weak or Tettles.
I don't know. I got pretty tilted. So basically that was my first week back in London, and I was not playing Stormwall Blockade that great. Plus they needed me to do like a really bad overlap in terms of how to drop the energized spark. In retrospect, I shouldn't have even been clearing. There's no need to clear there. But like I was trying to clear the platform, and I kept getting killed by Voltaic Flash with the ad. Like I got killed by it in melee. That was pretty bad. That actually kind of upset me. Nick, what did you think? Okay, so as somebody who killed Jaina very early on, what did you think of Stormwall Blockade being like super giga cheese? Was it kind of like a letdown for you, or?
I like the fight, but I don't like how it's cheesed. Like I think it would have been like a great wall, like an Akrama wall, if it didn't get cheesed that hard. But with the cheese, it's just like, I don't know. We had like 2 melees, 1 melee, 2. No, we had 2 melees, and then rest ranges and just like one-shot the boss pretty much. Can check how many wipes we actually had, but I think it's like 30 or something.
Yeah, you bring a demon hunter, you bring a rogue,
yeah, 35.
and then you're just good to go.
Like 5 shadow priests.
Oh, that's another thing. I don't like how they... Okay, go ahead.
We actually played the fight with 5 boomkins, 3 shadows, 2 warlocks, a mage, 2 mages, and a demon hunter, and a warrior. Yeah.
Obviously, it's nice when fights can cater well to our class with multi-dots and stuff, but I feel like they do that way too often, where it doesn't favorize melee enough, which I guess it's fine because sometimes melee is favored, very rarely, but it just makes it like, so let's say if some of your good players are melee players, even if they're like the greatest player in the world, they'll still be sad because they can't do as much damage as a Shadow Priest or a Balance Druid, and that happens very often these days.
What did you think about the raid testing for the most recent fight, Nick? What was his name?
Crucible of Storm.
Uwu Not or something?
Yeah, Uwu Net is his name.
Uwu. Uwu Not, yeah.
We didn't test the first boss much because it was just disconnects over disconnects. But the second one was actually pretty good. I liked the fight. It's like I don't want to say it's like a new Gul'dan, but it feels like more of a sort of harder fight. More like it's more chaos. It's like way harder to coordinate. There's a cool mechanics going on, a lot of dodging, a lot of movement, and the raid itself just looks really good. The environment. I
actually thought that Jaina was going to be very similar to Gul'dan in terms of how many melee you're going to end up bringing, but then you end up just with Demonology Lock, Boomkin's Priest, Ellie's Shaman, all doing just stupid amounts of damage right now.
So for Crucible of Storm, the Unat boss might be like a new spread cleave sort of dot class favored boss, because there's like tons of ads, but you can grip them in heroic, like the same as Zek was in Uldir. You can grip the ads, right? But I assume you can't grip them in Mythic because they're going to be stationary. If that's going to happen, then yeah, it's definitely like a Shadow Boomy fight.
Yeah, more of the same.
Yo, give me some more multi-dot fights.
It's actually, it feels so good. You can imagine. There's like the shrine ads at the end, at the boss fight. The one you need to kick. Their ones are spawning. Three of them are spawning. You can silence them in heroic. You can grip them. You can stun them. You can basically do everything with them.
I think the first boss also has like a range tank mechanic where like a range player actually tanks the boss or something like that.
Maybe that was removed. It has the same mechanic as the shrine boss, like where you get the debuff.
Well, in Shrine of the Storm,
more damage.
In Shrine of the Storm, those ads don't melee at all, so you don't even need to tank them. They're just gonna run around whenever they're kicked.
Same. It's basically like all the shrine mechanics in a raid.
That's not bad. All right, and so we already talked about Jaina a pretty decent amount. So let's talk about Boomkin overall. What do you guys think about Balanced Druid in this instance as a whole? Obviously, we saw Boomkin being pretty favored. Boomkin's Priest and Destruction Warlock were the top 3 specs for the majority of progression at this point. The first like 2 or 3 weeks, we saw those 3 specs being pretty heavily favored. Obviously, we've seen Demonology be pretty stupid and pretty strong as of late. But what do you guys think about Boomkin as a whole?
I think it's one of the best classes in the game right now.
Yeah, easily.
I think we need more buffs, to be honest. Shadows and Warlocks are still too good.
Nerf Shadow and Warlock more top.
I personally wouldn't mind if they nerfed either Streaking Stars or straight up single target and gave us more AoE / multi-dot damage. Because I feel like that's our niche. But right now we're just like a single target monster class that has Sunfire and Moonfire for seemingly no reason, because we don't scale from extra dots on target. Our AoE is bad for burst, with Starfall being dog shit. I guess we have decent cleave with like our mastery buff, just with the solar and lunar empowerments. But other than that, like our dots by themselves, like compared to like Affliction Lock or Shadow Priest, our dots barely do anything. So all we are is like this class that does monstrous single target every 3 minutes and has consistent single target outside of that too, which puts us near the top. But our multi-dotting is just like a small additive that doesn't do much.
Yeah, we're definitely. I've compared this to Antorus Shadow Priest a pretty decent amount, because it feels like that's definitely the way that we're playing. We're really slow paced on AoE, which drives me insane, because we also do like very minimal. We're like very middle of the pack damage on AoE for a class that has spammable AoE for most all intents and purposes. We have spammable AoE. So for a class that has spammable AoE, being in the middle of the pack is kind of strange to me, especially since that we do have spammable AoE, so why the hell are we middle of the pack? But then, like you said, the fact that we're so slow on AoE and our dots don't do very much puts us in this weird spot where we're only able to kind of just like blast single target, which is good for raid. It just feels awkward for Mythic Plus a lot of the time, and I think that's where the issue is coming in. I don't think it's actually coming in raid. I think raid Boomy owns, but in Mythic Plus it's pretty hard.
I think the biggest part is the fact that we don't scale well with more targets compared to some other classes. Like back in Legion, Shooting Stars with the Astral Power generation just made the class a lot of fun to play on AoE. But not right now, it just feels like a drag trying to generate enough Astral Power to Starfall. It's almost up to the point where I never Starfall ever in an instance. I'll just like Star Surge instead, even if I know it's less damage. I can do like priority damage at the same time, and I don't know, just pressing Starfall just feels bad. Like
you just unbind it.
And Star Surge feels really good. It hits like 100k.
I'm like 410 item level, and Starfall will do like 10k damage per target hit. It's really bad.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. All right. So then we had just one question for the show. It was from Seedmole. He wanted us to talk about Arcanic Pulsar, Streaking Stars, Munching Procs, and then like the discussion of on-hit versus on-proc. So basically, what the question stemmed from, so Streaking Stars actually procs on-hit as opposed to on-cast. Like, it should definitely proc on-cast, but procs on-hit anyways. So there's been a decent amount of work done in terms of cast sequences for timings at range and how to best manage your proc rate. And there's not really much you can do about it on the fly without being able to like tell how far you are away from your target. So unless you're using like a range indicator for the boss or something, there's no real way to tell what cast sequence you should be using. But there's also some variables in terms of how much haste you have and the missile speed of Solar Wrath. So it's really challenging in terms of what you should be casting, and sometimes you just innately munch procs. Nick, what do you actually think? Do you have anything to say about this?
So I've noticed a lot of munching on Jaina, especially after importing the weak aura we have, the Streaking Star efficiency thing, where I just like get the Pulsar proc. I try to like Solar Wrath, Lunar Strike, and the boss just moves too close to me, and I just end up munching like one proc, not even getting off my dots sometimes. Overall, it feels just bad, especially if you are at the level where you can like, where you try to min-max around it, and you just can't because of like just not being able to do it. You don't have enough range, you don't have enough haste, you don't know what to do in this certain situation, like where you need to stand, what you need to cast. I know it's like doing math on the fly, basically, what you need to do, but it's impossible, basically, sometimes.
And if you do want that Streaking Stars efficiency week, or you can always join our Discord, and I think it's in the Boomy channel, the Boomy Stuff channel.
You know, one thing that's really stupid about Streaking Stars is the fact that when you cleave with Lunar Strike or Solar Wrath, it'll hit the target you cleave instead of the target you cast it off.
It procs damage on the elemental. Oh my god! Why am I doing damage?
Some of it will go to the elemental, which becomes completely worthless damage, and it feels very bad because every time you incarn, I think I have like 8 or 9 procs that go into the elemental, so that's almost 100. That's more than 100,000 damage, which could be on Jaina. So if you work to 100,000 damage and Jaina, and you have like 100k damage from Streaking Stars on the elemental, you just want to fucking. I'm sorry, you just want to end your life.
Yeah.
I was always wondering why I had like so much elemental damage. I wasn't even dotting it, and I was still like up there on the elemental damage. And I was like, why is Streaking procking on it? What?
Yeah, no, it's
I'm not
obnoxious.
even casting on it.
Goosey, do you have any advice for people who like should be looking to play around munching procs, or do you think that they should just kind of just keep playing their own game, and then just like if they munch procs, just whatever? Because that's what I've been doing. I've been playing just like, all right, well, I guess
just play your own game. It's like a 1% difference. Like it doesn't really matter. It's just frustrating. I don't know why they changed it back to on hit. They changed it like 4 times now. It feels worse. Subjectively, it's just worse in terms of feeling.
That it's all fixed if you just put it on cast again. It's like, why not just do it?
Well, the issue is that missile speed of Solar Wrath is just so slow by comparison to.
True.
So we have two instant cast dots. Lunar Strike has no travel time. It has like a little bit, but it has relatively no travel time. Star Surge's travel time is also very quick, and then Solar Wrath takes like 1 billion years to get to the target, which is fine. But the fact that it's on hit makes it like a big issue.
Very annoying.
Very annoying. I think
very annoying.
I think we're all on the same page on that. And I think that actually will do it for us today. Pretty good show. I felt like that was pretty good overall. Thank you so much, David and Goosey, for joining us. David Q, where can we find you?
Again, I stream on twitch.tv/DavidQ42. Gonna stream this upcoming Monday for the end of the raid, where we try and kill Jaina.
Good luck.
Shit. So check that out. Goosey, where can we find you at? Where do
You
the
can
people
find
know
me in
to
the Druid
freaking you?
Discord, or you can message me in game on my name is Teddles on Hyjal.
Hold on, wait. That's my
Should
name.
ask me any questions you have.
Oh, okay.
Do not
Oh,
message-
sorry, wrong server. My name is Teddles on Zoljin.
Isn't
not
there
message
like
Titles on Zoljin. That is my alt.
isn't
my
there
alt is
titles
called
on like
Titles.
any server? No.
Probably.
There's a
Like,
lot of titles.
Even on my server, it's used.
Wait, what?
Wait, really?
I
On
have a
EU?
German
team
Teddles?
that it's named Teddles.
The brigade has that boomy that boomy alt that's literally named your boy Teddles. I'm just like, huh.
Your boy Teddles.
Like, excellent. This is what I was hoping for. All right, Nick, where
Teddles
can
is
we
a
find you?
household name now.
I stream over on twitch.tv/NickDruid. I usually stream like farm only because we don't stream progression, sadly. Maybe
He doesn't
soon, who
talk on
knows?
stream. Very sad.
I am not allowed to talk on stream because, you know, voice and German, I don't know, doesn't
Wait,
fit.
well, why
very
can't you
well.
talk on stream?
Because we're fucking toxic.
Oh, well, okay, you can
You know
you
how
can take
Germans
out
are.
you can
Okay,
take out the
that's
rest
actually
of your
not true.
chat. You can take out the rest of your
we
guild's
just-
voice.
We just don't talk on stream, and I'm usually like in TeamSpeak, right? So I try to talk to my guild. I could take out my TeamSpeak and just talk to my raid, my stream. I mean, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't do it.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
could. As you can find me in the Dreamgrove Discord, I guess. Yeah, and that's about it.
Yeah, of course, you can always find me on Discord. All that other stuff. Check out my Wowhead guide. Better than the Dreamgrow GG guide. Get fucked, Goosey.
Correct.
That's true.
Twitch.tv/Teddles. Check out our Patreon. Check out all the stuff in the description below. If you guys have
Very
any
good
Yeah,
questions.
thanks
streams
to all of our
incoming.
patrons.
Very good streams incoming on twitch.tv/Teddles. Tune in at 10 EST to 2:30 EST. Almost every
Always
night.
worth
Yeah,
watching.
almost every night.
Almost
Every
every
night,
night.
every
Hold on,
fucking
hold on.
night.
Okay, what he's saying is we're rating a lot of overtime right now. We got the overtime police on us. I don't know if this is going to be uploaded by today, but it might be. So I am going to be streaming on Saturday night as we are rating more overtime. Try to get a very coveted, highly coveted US6 Jaina kill.
Make sure you watch his
Imagine
Twitch
doing
clips.
overtime. Yikes.
Make
Who
sure
does
you
that?
watch my Twitch clips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah,
lot
they're
of
really good.
There's a lot of good moments that happen on Teddles' stream, and it's even better on when it happens live because the Twitch chat goes insane.
There's like 300 people watching.
Yeah, it's great. Just
Dude.
tune in.
You
All
should
right,
go
thanks.
watch his. You should go watch his recent clips. I guarantee you will have a good one.
Oh man.
All right.
All right, cool. And I think that's it for us today, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe. All right. Hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Peace. David, can you want to
Peace.
throw up the okay hand?
Oh.
I'm waving.